This segment is brought to you in part by the Canadian Historical Arms Society, owners of the Genesee Range, the premier recreational sport and training facility in Western Canada. See us online at historical-arms.com.
The Quiet Professional, a podcast about law enforcement, security, justice, and politics. We are digging deeper on the issues and going where the information takes us with access to experts and authorities. Welcome to The Quiet Professional. Hey everybody, welcome back. Nathan Romas with you. Today we are talking about leadership in law enforcement special operations and the development of units in these areas. For that, I've got a couple guests here today. Well, I guess one is a co-host. So I'm joined by John Simpson. You have been a huge help to me, so I want to make sure I say that off the start. But John Simpson, for those who don't know, veteran of the U.S. Army with over 40 years as a sniper trainer. He's also an instructor with Snipercraft Incorporated and a research historian, second to none. Also, John has authored several books on the fundamentals and advanced tactics of marksmanship and sniper skills, and I will get those links up in the episode description, so I recommend people check those out. Our guest today is retired Chief of Police Bob Lewis. He had given 30 years of service with the Collier County Sheriff's Office in Naples, Florida, 26 of which were spent with special operations, with extensive experience in the areas of SWAT and Bomb Squad. He has also done consultation work with the National Tactical Officers Association, where he helped develop and implement some foundational programs from active shooter response to the SWAT EOD integration. So welcome to you guys.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Good to be back.
Man, I think this would be really exciting. Honestly, I don't know if I've maybe had one guy on the Canadian side. So it was Kevin Sear. He's a commanding officer with the SWAT unit, one of the SWAT units for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. So up on the Canadian side, not too often have I had someone to talk about leadership specifically within special operations. So I'm happy to get you in here, and I think this would be a really good conversation, especially around the explosives. You're one of the few that has worked in that unit as well. So, I think you'll have some really unique perspectives that you could provide.
Where do you want me to start?
If you could tell us a little bit about yourself, how you ended up in Florida, because I know there was a bit of a story that you had sent in your bio about that. So what brought you to Florida and specifically Collier County?
Well, back in the 80s, I had tried to get into law enforcement several times in the state of Pennsylvania. I had tested for the Pennsylvania State Police twice, and I received 98 on the written score for the written tests. And I remember going to, I think it was Olney High School in Philadelphia. 1,200 people took the test for 3 positions.
Oh, wow.
So you had to score high. I had 98 on the test, but I was put on a list because it was back in the 80s. And I know I'm not going to get into discrimination aspects, but they were looking for minorities at that time. And, I just put on a waiting list. I had tried to get into a local department, a township agency. I was told I was going to be hired in January. So I was finished number 1 in their testing procedures. And I waited till, I guess, it was almost December when I got a phone call saying, we have to tell you we can't hire you in January because the funding was cut in our budget from the State Highway Safety Department. So the position was eliminated. So after months of waiting, being promised a job, it was difficult. I mean, it was really hard to get in up there unless you really actually had an uncle that was a chief of police, or, your dad or some relative could pull strings for you. It was tough for an outsider to break through. So at the time I came to Florida, I was hanging drywall. This was 1985. And I remember I got pissed off on the job of, I just dropped my stuff right where it was at. I was married to my second wife at the time, and went home, got her, and we went to Florida that afternoon. We flew down, and stayed for about a week or so. And I said, people always retire and move to Florida. And I didn't like cold weather. It was, getting to that time of year in Philadelphia where everything gets gray, damp, and cold. So I said, let's move to Florida. So we went home, we packed up the car, no relatives, no family, no jobs, no nothing. And we headed south. And I'd never been to the west coast of Florida. And I remember we came into Naples, Florida, in Collier County. It was in November of 1985. I saw a sign that said Trails End Motel, and it was like a premonition. Here it is. We're dropping anchor here. Let's see what happens. And that's how I ended up in Naples, as far as Collier County. I applied for a position with the Collier County Sheriff's Office, and I also applied for Naples Police Department. They were both given their tests the same day, of all things. And I decided to go with the sheriff's office because it was jurisdiction for the entire county rather than just the 12 square miles of the incorporated city. Mm. I had 2,000 square miles of the county. So, and that was in beginning of December. For lack of better terms, I guess they were in a hurry to get people filled up because of the growth that was going on down here. And I started in January. So, I mean, from filling out the application, taking the tests, and getting hired was less than 8 weeks, which,
wow.
If you know anything about hiring processes nowadays, it takes months. So, and I started in January of 86. I graduated number 1 from the academy, which was a blessing. And the rest was history after that.
How big is Collier County?
Well, the area is, we have the western half of the Everglades, and I think it's the 5th largest county east of the Mississippi. We're 2,022 square miles, I believe it is, and it's quite large. I mean, you can drive literally an hour from one, county line to the other. So that's how I ended up here. Once I got in road patrol, I was assigned to a district. You go into the academy, and then you get out, and you're the new guy, and it was great. I was on road patrol for I guess 2 years, and I found out my wife was going to have our first child. So I'm looking to get a raise. I mean, the money was awful back then. In 1986, I think I made, with all the overtime, I made like $16,000 my first year.
What would that be like today? 40 grand, 50 grand?
Maybe. I don't know. The cost of living here now is just outrageous. Naples is a very expensive area to be in. Actually, I'm here 40 years this year in Naples. So I'm looking to get into something promotional wise. I would have liked to have taken a corporal's test for road patrol, but they weren't offering anything at that time. But they did have an opening in homicide, which is a corporal's rank. So there was my avenue for a pay increase. So I took that, and I made it into homicide. But I felt kind of guilty doing that because I didn't want to lose the experience you would gain being on the road. Mm-hmm. And that's when I got into special operations. Back then, they didn't have the standards they do. Not that well, I'm glad we do now. But back then, they wanted warm bodies with a pulse. I remember they had the test for getting into taking the sniper's test was you reach in a bag of spent brass, and he'd tell you to pull out a 308 casing or a 223 casing. This is how sophisticated the process was. So anyway, long story short on that, I got on board with SWAT. I figured I could outmatch the patrol experience I was losing and fill that with tactical experience and maybe get into some good schools through the SWAT program. So that's what I did. That's how I ended up, I think it was 1989 or 1990 that I got on SWAT as a sniper. Okay. And it was an alternate position. So I served as an alternate along and serving full-time as a detective. So when we would get a call out, we would respond to that. We would keep the equipment in our car, which most of it back then you had to buy your own. They had a bunch of military surplus. You could go through old duffel bags and find stuff. But for the most part, if you wanted anything that would actually work or fit, you'd have to buy it yourself. So that's how that all came to be. And I think it was 1990, I went to my first sniper school. It was taught by J.R. Davis from the FBI in Miami. It was a 6-day school. And I'll say one thing for the agency that I worked for, Collier County, they had a tremendous budget for training. Former Sheriff Don Hunter, first time I met him, he was the major in charge of SWAT. So he had a natural thing for special operations. And if we could justify a need, he would always make sure we would get what we needed. So it was being at the right place at the right time.
That's pretty good because
That's how
that's even hard to get nowadays to get the proper training and the money.
it is. It is. And it was, I guess I stayed in the sniper role from 1990 through when my phone keeps beeping. Anyway, till I got promoted in 2005. So I had 15 years as a sniper. And when I wasn't sniping, I was doing the breaching.
Mm.
Anybody could, bench press, a few hundred pounds, they would stick you as a breacher. And that was me when I wasn't sniping. So door crashing was fun. So I enjoyed that too. But I did get to meet a lot of good people. It was at this time we would start competing at Sniper Craft. I was at the first one, I think, in Medley. How many years is that, John? 37 years ago? First one? It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, it was like in the 90s.
Yeah, it was early 1990s, 91, 92, somewhere. And I started competing at SWAT Roundup in Orlando, international competition. And that's how I started meeting some of these other folks that hooked me up with NTOA, National Tactical Officers Association. And they end up being beer buddies. And that's how, like I said earlier, that the network expands.
Mm-hmm.
You learn more, outside at the dinners and beer parties and stuff like that than you do sitting in a classroom.
Yeah.
So that's how I got involved with that.
One thing I wanted to ask on that is for your program and when you were going through to be a sniper, did you have to be in SWAT first, or could you go directly into sniper program?
I went directly in as a sniper,
Okay,
which is unheard of. It wasn't too long after that when we started getting more warm bodies that we changed and revised a lot of protocols and procedures, because you just don't take somebody with no experience in anything and how to respond to anything and then give him a sniper rifle and hey, you're going to provide protective overwatch. You don't know what we're doing, but here's what you're going to do.
yeah,
And now that you have to have so many years in grade before you can actually move to the next grade, and that goes with the promotional process on patrol or wherever. They have a hierarchy of how many years you have to have in grade before you can promote to corporal or sergeant or lieutenant. Same thing in SWAT. You have to have so many years in SWAT before you can test to be a sniper. So you have to have some type of foundational knowledge and education of what the procedures are and how to function in that role before you can consider, to move up.
Yeah.
Which is, it's also need to do that.
Where does I guess you were part of the creation of the bomb unit. Is that a part of the same operations, or is it separate from SWAT?
It's a separate unit. It's all part of the Special Operations Division. We didn't have our own bomb squad after 9/11. We had an incident on I-75 here in Collier County that involved two students that got arrested. They were suspicious of carrying explosive devices or something. So we had to call in agencies with bomb squads. Actually, one I think came over from Fort Lauderdale. Broward County sent theirs. I think Lee County or somebody else sent theirs. And we had the interstate tied up for like 7 hours. I was still in patrol at the time. After my stint in CID as a detective, I got promoted to sergeant in patrol. I went back to patrol. And this all transpired while I was still in patrol. But our sheriff, like I said, Don Hunter, he's very forward in his special operations commitment. And he doesn't like having other agencies come in when we should have our own assets. So there was all kind of money, grant money floating and stuff like that. We had one of the best grant writers on the planet working for us. And the grant money was flowing right after 9/11. And he wanted to get his own bomb squad. So we started testing for bomb squad. They wanted a bomb squad sergeant, which was the first position. And I applied for that and tested for that. And by the good Lord's grace, I got that. Go ahead, John.
If you don't mind my asking, so what was the test that you had to do to get into the bomb squad?
Well, the test was given. The state fire marshal, matter of fact, dear friend Mike Oler, who's also retired, he came down with one of his bomb techs, Scott Bialy, and they administered a test. Basically, they gave us it was more of a PT test, putting on the suit, doing exercises, crawling through things, making sure you didn't have claustrophobia, that you could wear this 80-pound suit without dying. And that was one of the first icebreakers, finding out who's going to be able to do this. I mean, when you close somebody up in a suit and they can't, people get that claustrophobia feeling, then you'll panic. And that was like one of the first hurdles to get over. I'm trying to remember what type of written test we had. They always give a study packet, that kind of stuff. So you have a written as well as a practical. And that's how I got in the bomb squad sergeant position. We did not have an established FBI certified bomb squad at the time. Former sergeant in SWAT had started procedures for that, but they scrapped the idea because they didn't really feel we needed one. This is pre 9/11. They had started paperwork for it years ago, and it just fell through. So what we did, we reignited the paperwork and trying to get things going to get a bomb squad. You need 2 certified technicians certified by the FBI at Hazardous Devices School at Redstone up in Huntsville. And right after 9/11, everybody in the country wanted bomb techs. So what they were doing, the waiting list was about 18 to 24 months to get into school. So it was a heck of a hike. But again, here's where the network comes in. There was a guy that worked in Golden Gate, one of our districts. He was a civilian, but he was a retired colonel from the military, EOD. He knew he was good buddies with the Army director for Redstone, for the Hazardous Devices School. And he was a guest speaker at one of our regional bomb conferences we had when I was still going through the procedures. He introduced me to the person that's in charge of Redstone. And basically he said, "This is my son," which I really wasn't his son. He was kidding, but the director at Redstone knew. And he says, "Hey, they're trying to start a bomb squad down here where I live. Can you help them out?" And I think this was in December, maybe October. Between October and December of getting our paperwork up to Redstone. So, I mean, we were looking at an 18-month wait, but I think we barely had an 8-week wait. We got bumped. Myself and another deputy named Jacques Panquita. He was the second bomb technician for the county. So rather than wait the 18 months, we were certified within 12 weeks, which once you get 2 people certified, then you can get the squad certified, you get your FBI number, then you're an official bomb squad. So that's how that transpired.
Were you guys seeing, so 9/11 happens and this is a big push all of a sudden, there's tons of money out there for a lot of this stuff. Was there specific info or intel that you thought, okay, maybe our county should really be kind of getting ahead of this? Or was it just we've had certain incidences before and this is a unit we've been looking at all along, and then you went ahead with that because the money was available?
Well, the money that was available was part of it, but it's something that everybody should have been looking at right after Columbine.
Okay, yeah.
If you look at the 2 knuckleheads that did Columbine back in 1999, they used IEDs. They had a gym bag full of pipe bombs. So we were seeing an increased use of IEDs in SWAT callouts. This is all progressive. You can see where this is all going.
Yeah.
And it's something that every agency should have been doing anyhow. So the fact that we now had a bomb squad, we could, branch that training out and get it out for the other entities that needed it. So,
and the you said there the FBI certified program. So the FBI is kind of the gatekeeper of whether you are up to the standards. I would have thought it would have been like the ATF.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. There, for lack of better terms, is a pissing contest between the FBI and the ATF of who's in charge. The FBI has the basic school, the Hazardous Devices School. That's run by the FBI. The ATF has a lot of the other advanced schools and courses, and they both share territory up there at Redstone. And I mean, they work hand in hand together. Sometimes it's it's not so much of a contest of who's in charge, but just who can, provide the most of the people out there. And they both do a wonderful job. They really do. So I can't say anything bad about either one of them. I got friends in both.
Yeah.
So
So what was it like, you get into the unit and standing that up? I mean, I have experience going through a newly created unit when we started up our gang unit, and that was a shit show. And there's a
yeah,
lot of people jumping in trying to create things and put things on their resumes. So I just wonder, like, doing the explosive stuff, how smooth of a transition that was to get that up and running.
it really was a smooth transition because it was territory that no one really had walked in,
Okay.
and no one really wanted to walk in it. And it's like explosives. Okay, you handle it. Go ahead, do what you need to do. We'll be over here, and it worked out well. And just the two of us, we became part of the Southwest Florida Regional Bomb Squad, which Lee County Sheriff's Office, Lee County Port Authority, State Fire Marshal's Office. It was a group of bomb technicians from our region here. We had 9 counties that we were responsible for. So not only were we responsible for Collier County, but being part of a regional team, we would respond to anywhere in the 9-county area as a regional team, and we would all get together for training. And that's one thing about HDS that I can say that really works. The standards are the same. I mean, you could go to HDS and then take that bomb tech and put them in Seattle, Washington. The principles are the same. The procedures are the same. Unlike SWAT, you have different geographical concerns or whatever, city, urban, rural, hides, whatever. There's a difference. But the standard for the bomb squad is the same. Didn't matter. We will go through the same course, and you can plug and play. So the standardization was pretty good.
Okay.
Being part of the regional team, the training was good because now you're interfacing with other agencies, you're making new networks, and you're growing. It's a constant learning process.
Was it like that? So was it mostly the FBI coming in and training people to start, and then you're able to branch out and do a lot of things on your own?
We had a resident out of Tampa, our special agent bomb technician, SABT. He would come down and supervise the training sometimes. He was our go-to for anything we needed at Redstone. So every bomb squad has as a liaison, an SABT that we would contact. And these guys are not the typical FBI agents. They're usually former military. A lot of the FBI agents are accountants or lawyers or whatever. These guys are the mud in the fingernails kind of guys. So they're a whole different animal. So, and it was great working with them too.
Okay. And also, one of the things I wanted to get your perspective on was, so when you started up this explosives unit, and then you talk about kind of the integration with SWAT and some things that change your perspectives in there. Can you kind of talk a bit about that? So on the perspectives, you're talking about kind of narrowing SWAT response down to 2 categories. So there's the life-threatening, non-life-threatening, and just kind of the evolution
Right.
of your own leadership skills, but yourself as a person.
Well, when I became a bomb technician, I didn't give up my SWAT sniper position. I did both,
Mhm.
which I don't know how many people's actually been able to do that. I was kind of fortunate because, manpower stretched thin. We're going to use whatever we can. And the fact that I had that background, there's no point in giving it up. So I could wear many hats. And being involved with NTOA and all the post Columbine training that was going on, the active shooter really got big after 1999. I think it was the necessity for immediate response was because I think it was Dave Sanders, who was a teacher who got shot and bled to death because they didn't get to him in time. They did things SWAT, a slow, methodical search, rather than just charge in and end things. That's what developed out of Columbine. Let me get back to where I'm going with this. But the use of IEDs and all the other associated things that these kids did, the rapid response, active shooter drills and all that came before. And when I got involved with Bomb Squad, we started, we would continue in our active shooter drills. But now, knowing what they did at Columbine, I would make training devices So when these guys would see things, they would, oh, there's a device there, don't touch it. Everybody would walk around and get away with it. Well, I started making devices with motion sensors because if they see something and they go to walk past it, if you don't know what you're walking past, you're going to get killed.
Yeah.
And the only time a SWAT team can be effective, you're a weapons delivery system. If you can't get on target, you're useless. And if you kill half your guys before you get there, mission failure. So being part of NTOA, former director John Nagy, who was a dear friend, I would see him at SWAT Roundup, and I say, John, you ever thought about addressing EOD and SWAT? And I told him why. I said, I started doing some training with the guys, and they're teaching to move past devices if you see them. And I said, it's okay, but if you're not sure what you're moving past, you could get killed. And I explained to him about the motion sensor stuff. And evidently he took it a few steps further and put it through the network. And long story short, that became part of a focus for NTOA, was the integration. It took several years. We had, I think we developed a national SOP guideline on how to write a program for agencies, let them know what type of foundational items they needed in their SOPs before we ever got to the point of actually developing the program. It took several years of doing this, to get things established.
Yeah.
But again, I used to be the substitute teacher, if you will, for NTOA. This is how I filled in for John on a SWAT conference in Wisconsin one year. He called me out of clear blue. He says, I'm in a bind, state SWAT conference in Wisconsin. I can't find anybody to take my place, and I need somebody to fill in to give a speech on leadership or whatever. And I said, okay, I'll do it for you. Well, it's okay. I'm sure Wisconsin's nice in the summertime, but in February, well, you're in Canada. You're north of that, so you know what the cold weather's like.
Yeah, it's normal.
Right? I think it was 86 when I flew out of Naples or out of Fort Myers, and it was minus, I forget what it was. It was almost 100-degree difference between that and Wisconsin. So I paid dearly for the cold. I actually had a Canadian goose knock on my door and ask me for a blanket. That's how cold it was. Yeah. So, that's how I really got the ice broken for the NTOA filling in. And then I got to the point where John would just say, hey, I got a couple of gigs coming up. Can you fill in? And I met Tom Lynch, who was the section chair for EOD for NTOA, and Keith Frakes. He was a captain. I think he was military too, out of Arizona or New Mexico. And he was the SWAT chair. And the fact that I had SWAT background and bomb squad background, whenever they needed somebody to fill in for them, I would get a phone call. Hey, can you fill in for me? And they're my friends, and I enjoy doing it because, again, you get to expand that network. And it's just another way to serve and get back.
Yeah.
And that's the most critical part of leadership is serving. Your pyramid's upside down. The higher rank you go, the more of a servant you become. And you lay your ego aside because you're there for everybody else around you. Mm-hmm. And it just worked out great. And that's how I ended up at the committee meeting we held. I forget when the year was. It was at Redstone Arsenal. It was a meeting on SWAT and EOD integration. And they had several bomb techs from around the country. And I was there on behalf of NTOA. And they wanted us to develop, the FBI had already instituted a program. They call it a dismounted bomb technician, where they would put a bomb technician with their SWAT guys. You can't take a SWAT guy and make him a bomb tech in a couple of weeks. And you can't take a bomb technician and make him a SWAT guy in a couple of weeks. But if you can blend the two assets so they know how to move together, then it becomes a fully functional, program. And anyway, we're sitting there, and I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut when I hear something stupid. And they wanted us to take their 5-week program and condense it into a 2-week program. And they were going to give it to a vendor who would then in turn probably sell it back to us at $100,000 a pop to do this. And I'm thinking, why in the hell would we do that?
Yeah.
You're going to milk us for our talents and then turn around and sell it back to us. And I basically, as we're having this discussion, I raised my hand and I used a couple of CK explicatives expressing my concerns over the idea. And I says, why don't we do a train-the-trainer course, go out into the field and train instructors to teach this blending and do it for free through the NTOA. And that way we get it out there to the troops that need it a lot quicker, and we're not paying for it again. Why should we pay for our own experience? That's just stupid. Well, I didn't know, but the director of Redstone was sitting behind me from the FBI, and he goes, how much money do you need? And, we'd already discussed it cost about 85 grand to put the first course on. And he goes, we'll fund it. Everybody's jaw dropped. I mean, I think they gave us $1.5 million the first year. And
Oh, wow.
I went out to Anaheim. I think that's where we put the first course on, was out in California. And Gary, his name slips my mind. The guy from the FBI who was the head of the committee, Aces. The guy is just Aces. Gary's his first name, I think it is. But he put everything together, and it just came to fruition. But anyway, somebody here's Gary, don't know who I'm talking about. Just a good guy. He put it all together, and from what I understand, it's still a program. I think it's a dismounted bomb technician.
Wow.
At Redstone. So that's for the bomb techs to learn how to move with SWAT. So now they've got eyes out there, and they can, if they see something.
It sounds like it was pretty smooth.
Yeah, the transition. Everybody wants to go home at the end of the day. The mission one is to save lives.
Yeah.
Civilians, ours, and even the bad guys. And if you can do that, you win. One thing you do, you avoid graveyards and courtrooms. So we've seen that at Snipercraft, wrongful deaths lawsuits begin in the 7 figures. So, you're going to get sued to even do your job right half the time. So let's stay out of there as much as we can.
Well, and even on that, I find it's just kind of interesting. Like, police always have a hard time, at least the organization as an entity, always have a hard time learning from their mistakes. And even when all the recommendations come out from whatever body or people doing a study on you, half of that might get implemented.
Well, that's another topic we can touch on. When I first got promoted, I forgot we didn't go through the promotional part. We can do that first, and I'll come back to the leadership thing. But before I forget, we want to learn from everybody else's mistakes, because you never live long enough to learn them yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You won't live long enough to make the mistakes yourself. So learn from everybody else's. And the egos is what really screws people up. People get in their promoted mindset where now I'm elevated, and they'll sit up on Olympus and look down at everything when really they should be in the valley pushing their people up the mountain.
Yeah.
And that's how the promotional thing actually for me happened before, right around the same time we got certified as a bomb squad. The fact that we were 18 months ahead of schedule instead of behind the 8 ball. I would meet with Sheriff Hunter for breakfast every now and then and give him an update on the progress we were making for the bomb squad's establishment. And this was December of 2004. We met for breakfast, and I told him we were up and running. We're certified. We've got 2 techs. Everything's going great. And out of the clear blue in the parking lot, as we're getting ready to leave breakfast, he said, I want to make some changes in January. I want to bring you over and promote you to lieutenant in charge of fugitive warrants. Well, that's something I would never thought I would have ever heard, because I had some opposition to a political thing years before, and I had a fallout with Sheriff Hunter. Now today he's my older brother. I love the man. I take a bullet from him. For him, I'd step in front of a truck. He's a great guy. But he wanted to promote me, and I'm thinking, what the hell do I know about fugitive warrants? And I said, oh, okay. He goes, yeah, I want to make these changes in January. Think about it and let me know what you think. And okay, so I always did some soul searching on that, and they had a lot of money invested in me. through SWAT and EOD. I mean, I had several thousand hours of schools and stuff, I guess, by then. And I didn't want to say no, but at the same time, I didn't want to say yes, because if you say no on a promotion, chances are you're not going to hear those words again.
Yeah.
So I ended up writing like a 3-page letter asking if promotion took place, could we bring fugitive warrants to special operations? That way I could still stay involved with SWAT and the bomb squad on a part-time basis. And I could get some of the SWAT guys to help serve some of the fugitive warrants in our downtime. So we would actually expand the unit. And I made the comment of, someday I'd like, because I commented on, how much money that agency had spent in my background. And I said, someday I'd like to be in charge of special operations. Well, I sent the letter in, and January rolls around, nothing, not a word, no changes anywhere in the agencies, nothing but crickets and tumbleweeds, silence. February, nothing. I mean, 2 months go by, and I'm thinking to myself, way to go, jackass. You pissed them off again. Now you're back on the crap list. You can forget the promotions or anything else. Well, at the beginning of March, I think it was March 5th or so, I get a phone call from him, and he'd scare the hell out of you every time he'd call you. Bob, this is Don. It's like, oh God, it's like quick genuflect or something like that. But anyway, he said, I got your letter. He says, I like your idea. He said, effective immediately, you're commander of special operations.
Wow.
You could have stapled my head to the floor and I wouldn't have been more surprised. Okay. Because I was a sergeant. I skipped over the rank of lieutenant.
Yeah.
And went right to division commander. And he goes, I liked your idea too on fugitive warrants. I'm giving them to you as well. He said, knock down the walls in that group over there and make a team out of that division. I had carte blanche, and again, I think I had to change my depends or something, but I was shocked.
This is the guy you had the run-in with like a couple years before.
Over the political thing. I mean, we had mended fences and had moved beyond. He is one of my mentors for life. I mean, if you can count on one hand how many guys are influences in your life, he is one of the 5. So,
but I think that shows some leadership. Yeah, that shows leadership on his part, though, too. I mean, like you have a disagreement, but you learn to move past it.
Tremendous. I keep trying to get him to run for sheriff again.
Yeah.
I keep trying to get him to run for sheriff again. He's got his integrity is second to none. If I can't say anything enough good things about him, but you can really tell who your true friends are, because I pissed off a lot of people. I mean, I went to work one day as a sergeant. The next day I came in, I'm the lieutenant's boss, which didn't fly well for a lot of these, these muckety mucks with their master's degrees and all this other, thinking their crap don't stink. They resented me. I don't have a bachelor's degree. And here I am, I'm their boss now.
Yeah.
And I had a hard time establishing anything because they all looked down at me because, he's not educated. Well, sometimes the mud on your under your fingernails and the dirt in your face, you'll never get an education like that in any classroom. And you can see things from the grassroots side of things where some of these people on Olympus will never see.
Yep.
And it just worked, and I went in with the attitude of, hey, I'm going to learn from these guys. I'm going to keep my mind open. I'm going to express my desire of how I think the job should be done. I mean, all those years of laying in the weeds of listening to these idiots on the negotiating with somebody that they should have just crashed the door, gassed them, went in and got them. I always swore that if I ever had the opportunity, I'm going to fix that. Well, the opportunity came. It did. And, it took a while, but things started settling down. And I guess I wasn't an egotist going in there. I'm in charge now. You have to do what I say. I went in and listened. I wanted to make sure that I could help them get what they needed to do the job, give them my expectations. We suffer from mission-oriented blindness. We want to get the mission done. We want everybody to go home, including the bad guy, and we don't want to go to the graveyard of the courtroom. So what can I do to help you do these things? And you give them what they need, and you stay the hell out of the way, and you just let them know, don't lie to me. If you ever need anything, let me know. Yeah. And you just stay back.
Yeah. So in that situation, I wanted to dig more into, you leave there, a subordinate, and then you come back and you're running the show. Um, you already covered some of the philosophy that you imparted on the guys, but it's like when you came in, what was what was the first meeting like where you basically established that it was now your show and this is how things are going to be?
No, I don't think I ever really did that. Come in with like an authoritarian thing. I wanted to let them know that I'm there to support them in anything that they
Mhm.
wanted. I basically outlined my philosophy on service. Do your best, don't lie, and if you need something, let me know. And being out there in the weeds all those years and listening to how things went and what the guys would complain and gripe about, I knew what not to do. I mean, we had some jackass leaders and special ops every now and then that, they couldn't pour piss out of a boot. The instructions were on the heel. It just happened that they were, lack of bodies and they were grafting it because they had time. And I'm sure you saw it in the military too, where people, how do they get up the ladder unless they're, standing on somebody else's head.
Yeah.
But anyway, the dust settled, and I just had my expectations, and this is what we have to do as a group. We knocked down walls. The interaction between the bureaus. If SWAT needed traffic, everything was blended now. The sheriff gave me authority to knock down walls, to use different assets, and what we did, we eliminated the divisions.
Did you run into a lot of resistance to that, though? Do you run into a lot of resistance?
Not
'Cause
really, no,
no?
because a lot of the guys, I mean, I was friends with them before I got promoted, so they knew me, and they knew I wasn't. Well, I could have been a hothead on occasion, because I just, like I said, I hate stupidity, and I'm not afraid to let somebody know that they're stupid. So they knew that I had their back, and that was the main thing of getting it across to them. I got your back. If somebody's going to shove something up your backside, it's got to go through mine first. But you have to let me know that it's coming. You know, I don't like surprises. I mean, if you screw up, let me know you screwed up, fall on the sword, and we'll move on. But, anytime somebody tries to sweep something under the rug and lie to me, that's it. I'll cut your head off myself
Yeah.
with a dull butter knife. So,
I like these conversations because I take a lot of this stuff for myself, but I know a lot of listeners that uh, get these little lessons and they are able to implement them. I mean, one of the things, like I'm a newly promoted sergeant just as of January, so it hasn't been long. It's just been several months. And one of the first things I did when I went in and talked to the team was say, "Hey, like this is a peer-to-peer relationship. I promoted because there's some things I'm trying to do within the service that the rank helps, and you can write policy or you can make certain changes. And to be honest, a lot of people just won't listen to you because you're a constable, you're the lowest rank. But it's the next day, you literally walk in with some stripes on your shoulder. All of a sudden, certain people listen to you. And it's like,
eh,
I was the same guy I was yesterday, but I go in and I say, like, this is a peer to peer relationship. And I'm just trying to do certain things over here. And you've got your tasks and things to do over here. But at the end of the day, like, I still go out and take calls with them on the front lines. I still show up and help them and
absolutely.
articulation and all that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. You have to do that. I mean, I would shock people. I'd roll up on a traffic crash scene and I'd get out and they go, "Oh, Captain, here," that everybody's like, "Oh God, it's the brass." I go, "What do you need me to do?" "You're in charge of this. I'll direct traffic, give me a flashlight. It doesn't matter. I'm here to serve them, and that will breach gaps. That'll bridge the gaps and stuff too. They realize you're not out there to stab in the back or elevate your authority over them. You're there to serve them, and that's where so many people, when they get promoted, they lose sight of that if they ever had it to start with,
Yeah.
and it's just a wrong mentality.
I think you got a certain character, a certain type of personality going in, and it can really amplify it once you're handed power. So,
Yeah. Well, we've got two ears and one mouth, so we're supposed to listen twice as much as we speak.
oh,
I remember there was a SWAT sergeant. I went into supply room one day. I was a sergeant. He was a sergeant. And he basically yells at me and tells me you're not allowed in here. You need to get out of here. You're not on the list. And I'm like, what do you mean? I've been coming in here for years. Yeah, but you're not on the list now. I think it was 2 weeks later when I got promoted to commander. And, sometimes you got to be careful whose, feet you step on or toes you step on, because it might be, attached to the ass you have to kiss.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of groveling done after that. I laugh at it now. I mean, I love all the guys. I mean, I miss the guys more than I do the job. And it all, like I said, the dust settled and everything worked out. Why don't you lay out your expectations and you stay out of the way? And they see that. They see that, well, he's not going to interfere with us. He's not breathing down our neck. You want to empower them. And the whole idea of leadership is train up your replacements.
Yes.
Train your guys, to take your job so you can move up. And, it's like if everybody's capable of moving up the ladder, somebody come in and say, hey, Captain, who can do this? I need somebody to fill this job. Pick one. Pick anyone. Choose. That's the whole mission, is to train them up to do your job. And it worked. It really did.
One day you have to retire. You're leaving. And if you're still living in the community, you're like, I want the people showing up at my calls now to be competent
Absolutely.
and capable. So
yeah, I mean, that was one of the hardest things I had to do when I first got promoted. I remember the first call out, we had after I got promoted. I'm at the trunk of my car. I'm getting my camo stuff on. I'm getting my rifle out, and the SWAT lieutenant comes over and he goes, "What are you doing, Commander?" And I go, "I'm suiting up. I'm going to go set up." He goes, "No, sir. This is your scene." And it was like the light flickered, and it was like, "Oh shit! Oh crap!" And it's like I had to that was my last call out. I mean, when I was now no longer in the weeds, I had to go to the command post, and I'm calling the shots. And it's like, oh crap, And then you realize how much you did miss that part of the job. It's like, oh, okay, now it's then you realize the weight of what's on your shoulders. But then all the years of laying in the weeds, listening to these idiots negotiate with somebody who should have been arrested 10 minutes after we got there. Now I can make these changes happen.
Yes.
And when a lot of negotiations and stuff went by the wayside, as far as if we got called out on a felon and he was barricaded, there's no suicidal threats, there's no hostages. We're not going to stand there and talk to you for 3 hours trying to coax you out. And I got this, I think it was Randy Watt out of Colorado, another SWAT guy. And this is an approved practice through NTOA. I told negotiators, you tell that son of a gun, he's got 10 minutes to come out. We can guarantee his safety for the next 10 minutes, or we're coming to get him. We can't do that. I said, yes, you can. And you're going to do that. That's one of the times I exerted my authority. It's like, you tell him, start the clock now, 10 minutes, because I'm not tired up in the neighborhood. Sun's going to be coming up soon.
Mm-hmm.
You got school kids going to be coming out catching the bus. And I'm not tiring it up for some felon who needs to go to jail. He can make the choice whether he goes to the hospital before he goes to jail, or he can just go to jail now. You tell him 10 minutes, start the clock now. And we cut down on all kind of stuff. The guys loved it. I mean, they thought that was awesome. They're not out laying in the weeds for 11 hours waiting for some idiot now. It's like, you come out now or we're coming to get you. And that's what's so wrong with some of the stuff now you see on TikTok. I feel so bad for the cops out there.
Mm-hmm.
They let these idiots with cameras run their scenes. If you cross the line, I mean, you get 1 or 2 warnings, fine, that's fine. But if not, I'm jerking your ass out through the freaking driver's window and you're going to jail. This isn't a negotiation.
It seems like, at least on, the TikTok and the Instagram stuff, it's a bit of a culture kind of around Florida where
it is.
It's a little more go get 'em and stuff. But I'm wondering, like, when you see these chiefs of police now or whoever's running the organization, they put out those messages like, you break into the house, I'm going to shoot you in the door. What's your opinion on those? Like, is that something that you were like when you were the boss, or is that new?
That's just law enforcement. I mean, this is how we've turned down the flames on things. We've stopped the consequence of actions.
Yeah.
People used to get thumped, And sometimes you need to thump them. I mean, these people realize they think because, oh, somebody's videotaping me. I remember when this videotape stuff really started to happen. It was, I was on patrol then, and we had, hey, the public started to videotape cops. And I would tell my guys, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, who cares? Integrity is doing the right thing when nobody's looking.
Yeah.
Right. And I would see people taking videos. And I would wave at them. Thanks for the support. And they turn the video off because you piss them off, because now you're not getting upset over it. People get upset. Stop videotaping me. Why? Who cares? If you're doing what your job's supposed to do, you're doing it by the letter of what your authority gives you, and you're in compliance with department policy. Who cares? I don't care if the whole world videotapes me.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to. Go ahead. I mean, no matter what you said, we talked about the press earlier, that no matter what you say, they're going to cut and paste whatever the hell they want to print anyhow. So care about the videotapes. But at least in Florida, we have old school mentality, if you will. And it's really not old school. It's just what's right and what's wrong.
Some of it's just calling it what it is. I think that a lot of that has been lost nowadays, where the offender is the victim in all situations, and the actual victim of the crime is just totally forgotten about. We've shifted this mentality into some weird, bizarro world in a lot of ways. Now, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If someone's an offender and they, depending on the crime, they need some help or they need resources, they can get that, but that doesn't excuse the behavior. If they got to spend the time in jail or prison.
Exactly.
But it seems like they have wholly and completely become the ones that certain people only care about. Like, well, what about all the victims and the community that we're going to put this person back into, where they're re-victimizing or finding new victims? So,
well, there's been a suppression of truth. When you see people and politicians out there, we don't care about the facts. The riots that were in Kansas or wherever it was over. I mean, it's just lunacy. Their political position is more important than what's right and wrong, and it's just a complete disregard for truth. And that's just, it's asinine. But at least here in Florida, I mean, there's a little bit of common sense left. Back in, it was 2014, the Republican National Convention was held in Tampa. And I think the Democratic Convention was held before that. I forget where it's held. There was like 800 and some arrests. But the state of Florida put out requests for support to all the agencies throughout Florida. They supplied us all the riot gear and all the uniforms. And I went up with my, it was a field force. We called it, it used to be the field force, riot squad stuff. But I went up to Tampa with them, and I took 40 guys up there along with other agencies. And I remember being on day shift up there. We were up there for 4 or 5 days for the convention. They called us the Tan Tide of Tampa. Everybody had on the tan BDUs. We had the Darth Vader riot gear with the helmets and pads and all that stuff. And day shift, I think, was about 680 cops. We had mounted patrol, we had bike patrol and foot patrol. We would have one team, 2 or 3 teams waiting in buses decked out for riot. And the other guys were on foot patrol. We actually walked with protesters. I support protesting 100%. That's constitutional guarantee. That I agree. But when you start blocking streets and throwing bricks, now you're an unlawful assembly. And if you're carrying somebody else's flag, I'm sorry, this isn't political. That's an act of war to me. You're in here burning our flag, carrying somebody else's flag, looting and burning and hurting our citizens. I'm sorry. You just opened a can of whoop ass and you ain't going to put the lid back on. And these politicians turn a blind eye to this stuff. And who are they serving? Are they serving their own agenda? Who is actually the beneficiary there? Who's going to win that argument? Who's going to succeed?
Yeah.
The bad guys are, because they're getting away with it. There's no consequence of actions. And our governor basically said, do it here. No, this is a no retreat state. People have the right to protect their property. They have the right to protect their lives. And we had countless no kings protest day, even here in Naples,
Oh, really?
but they're all on the sidewalk. Nobody's in the streets. You'll get run over here in Florida.
Yeah.
And I support that. I support every one of those people out there. I may be polar opposites politically, but I will fight for their right to protest because that's the Constitution I believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's people have gotten so far away from that. They've forgotten how to disagree without killing somebody.
Yeah.
You can be polar opposites on things. You can agree, but if you don't agree with what I believe, come up with a solution and meet me halfway. What can we do to work this out? And we're so far beyond that anymore. I think the division gap's too far. It's like an Alabama bluehound tick getting stuck into something that's just in so far now. You have to cut it out, and it's tragic. It really is tragic. But here in Florida, you've got consequentive actions. We're not going to allow it to happen. And like I said, getting back to Tampa, we would walk foot patrol with protesters. And regardless of what they were protesting, they were grateful for us to be out there. And it was these paid activists that get in there. You could always pick them out. They were the ones in the black clothes with a mask and a red bandana or some other color coordinated thing to let other players know. And they couldn't break out to start anything because you couldn't throw a rock at the ground without hitting a cop in the foot. That's how thick we were. They did it right. The preparation was perfect.
One of the things that I see, because I work with our public safety unit, so it's basically crowd management or riot team. But one of the things that we had quite a bit of was the stuff with the Palestine-Israel conflict. We had the Palestinian protests.
Right.
And, most of the people there are totally fine to deal with. But then you get these groups that inject themselves and cause all the, rile everybody up or start actually destroying property or attacking people. And the thing that comes out of that, though, that has always I've always questioned is, at the end of it, once we make arrests and the media or there's people there to sensationalize it and get the video and make clips of everything, I never see anything publicly from the groups that were totally fine when they were there and that were actually friendly with the police and thank the police for being there and being like, yeah, those guys over there, they're not part of our group. They're just here to be anarchists or cause trouble. It's like, well, then say that publicly and go out there and support the police, because we're just getting hammered by media and the politicians who want to pander for an extra vote. Well, why aren't, we need all these people to speak up, like that silent majority. You can't be so silent all the time. You do need to stand up for your members.
Right. Now, who controls the press?
Yeah.
The press is controlling what they're putting out. So, I mean, even if you have somebody standing there saying, hey, we support these guys. Case in point, one thing I did when I took over the division was, and again, another good thing NTOA suggests is when you have a major scene and you're shutting down a neighborhood, set an area just for the press.
Yeah.
Okay. Cordon off an area so you can have them there. One, it'll make them feel like they're part of something. Two, you can keep an eye on them and keep them out of your way. And then you go over and give them updates from time to time. If you demystify things, not just to the press, but to the residents, we would do that after an after action or an after incident protocol. We would go to the neighborhood. We had a bomb call out and we shut down a neighborhood for 3 hours. We would go to the homeowners association meeting afterwards and have a question and answer period and give them what we do and why we do it that way. And you demystify it. You take out the sting of, well, you can't go to your house because this. We let them know why.
Yeah.
And they have an understanding. And one incident in particular we had in North Naples, we had a bomb call out. We had the apartment complex shut down. And the people knew why we were there and they knew what we were doing. And one of the local TV stations, they're in the face of the residents. How do you feel about being shut out of your neighborhood for 3 hours? And I remember one lady let loose on this reporter. She said, you leave them alone. They're doing their job to protect us. They're here for us. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They understood, and that's what's needed. So many times, how many you see cops on TV? Get out of here! Nothing to see here. Get out of here! Get out of here! It's none of your business. Let them know. I mean, I worked in the projects in Immokalee, which is a farming community from here, and it's predominantly minority. And we would have massive fights and stuff. I mean, it's like kicking over an ant mound. I mean, people would come out of their apartments, and now you're surrounded. You got 4 or 5 cops, and you got 50 to 100 people behind you. And some of the elderly folks over there, uh, some of the black people. I mean, they were my friends. I would always go, hey, Sergeant Bob. That's when I was a patrol sergeant out there, and I'd always let them know what was going on. I'd always tell them, this is what we're here for. And a lot of times, if we arrested one of their kids, we would take them home and give them to their mom or grandma. And a lot of times, I've had a couple of times where the kid was crying, take me to jail.
Yeah.
Don't take me home. Don't,
It's going to be worse
because
at
grandma
home.
or mom would, somebody would just beat the hell out of them at home. But they appreciated that because it was a mutual respect. We weren't there to hassle them. We weren't there to break their chops, assert our authority over them or anything like that. We were there to serve them. And when we let them know that that's why we were there, it was, I could say, hey, watch our backs here. I would pick out a couple of the women that I knew where they were like the block queens. And don't worry, Sergeant Bob, we got your back. And they would stand there with their hands on their hips, and they knew, the kids, all the rowdy ones, they knew that's somebody's mom. Don't mess with it. Everybody go home.
Yeah.
And they would take care of business themselves. It made life a lot easier when you didn't get the egos involved. I mean, there may come a time where we had to, if they crossed the line, hey, they knew they were going to go to jail.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to take out of it too is like communication. So leadership is all about communication.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is.
Just as we're coming up to the end of our time here, I want to make sure I just give a few minutes for you guys to just kind of give us an update on anything you got going on. So I want to start with you, Bob. Anything, I don't know, you writing a book about all your experiences, or, you got anything else on the go?
I leave the book writing to John. He's the one he's an ink slinger as far as putting stuff to words. I'm working as some consultant work for AMP Research, if I can give them a plug.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with them a lot when I was in active duty. They developed a lot of technology for Bomb Squad, and that's the thing of the future. Anything we can do to take the humans out of the equation. One thing I learned going through part of the radiation school at Redstone that changed my SWAT life was when you're dealing with radiation, there's time, distance, and shielding. Those principles apply to SWAT as well. Anything you can do to minimize your time on target, anything you can do to increase your distance from the threat, anything you can do to shield yourself from the threat, it's a win-win. So those principles carry over into SWAT. So when I went to bomb school, it actually slowed my SWAT life down because we only have 2 scenarios in bomb squad: life-threatening or non-life-threatening. And if it's a life-threatening situation, you do whatever you have to do to reduce it to non-life-threatening. And if it's non-life-threatening, you take the time you need to resolve the situation. And it just simplified a lot of things. And it's not rocket science, but you'd have to keep your eyes and ears open, your mouth shut more than you do anything, and listen and see what people's needs are. And it just got easier for me, at least, anyhow. I think we covered the press too. Okay, good. Getting back to the AMP Research folks, they're laser light optics, and they do a lot of wonderful things for us in EOD, robotics, all that kind of stuff. Anything we can do to keep, like I said, the humans out of the equation, minimize the danger to everybody, and everybody goes home. So
Okay.
that's the mission.
Funny you should bring them up. I've actually been depressed ever since I learned that I'm older than laser beams. So yeah, I really wish you hadn't brought that up. Actually, before we do finish up, the one thing I did want to make a point of asking you about, you were talking about the radiation school. You attended that course that's held at the old Nevada test site. Could you I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are unaware of it. Could you expand on that a bit?
Well, it's actually a national historical site. It's probably open to tours, if I'm not mistaken. At least the one part is. Um, we had I think it was a 1 day, 1 or 2 day school in Las Vegas, and then they loaded us up on buses and actually took us out, and we had to stay on base out there. It's right on the other side of the mountain from Area 51. They basically told us no cell phones, no pictures, no nothing. If we catch you with your cell phone, you're taking pictures. We'll take you to the gate, and it's a 3 day walk back to Las Vegas. So they were very serious about it, and uh, we actually trained on the sites where they actually tested the A bombs and such. I remember coming around the bus into the area, and I don't know if it's called Jackass Flats.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, it looked like craters of the moon. They actually tested A bombs there, and they actually trained astronauts there for the craters. Huge. We went to one underground test site for, I think it was a hydrogen device. The crater was like 1,400 feet across, and it was about 400 and some feet deep. And that was just the fireball. So you can imagine how much devastation that would be. But we actually worked. They would give us a scenario. We would put on the suits. We'd have to find the radiation source, whether it was alpha, beta, or gamma. And it was just a great learning experience. And best thing I can say for anybody dealing with radiation is be somewhere else. You don't want to be around that.
I was just always fascinated by that. The idea of just a brilliant idea of a school where a, an atomic bomb test crater is left in its original state, and bomb techs get to come in and treat it like a hazmat scene in the aftermath of a nuclear detonation.
Yeah. The one test site that they have in like the little village that they have set up there, there's about a 75-foot mound of dirt because it's still radioactive on the actual scene of the explosion. And you see that house, it's charred in a lot of the videos. That's still standing. A lot of the stuff that's in the videos that you see online, they're still standing, and they're national sites now. And it was neat to see. And you really learn a lot out there. I mean, they put you through the drill and the Geiger counters, and you're checking the rads and all that kind of stuff. And again, like I said, you want to be somewhere else. Let the Nest team handle that.
So is that like a department? Is that a Department of Energy school?
Nest? Yeah, no, it is. I think it's Department of Energy. I think it is. I think that's who it is. What was really neat, they had a lecture one night that was given by one of these old guys that had been part of like 50 nuclear tests. This guy had been around so long, his presentation involved a grease pen and an overhead projector. So
Wow.
it was so interesting too. I mean, he was there for the actual blast, Bikini Atoll and all these other ones. He was actually there, and to sit and listen to these guys talk about that stuff. I mean, it's just amazing the developments and stuff that they've made. And it was great to meet these folks. A lot of these old timers and stuff like that are gone now, and that's why it's so important for us to have 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen twice as much as we speak.
Mhm.
Listen to some of these old folks that are out there. You can learn so much. And the young bucks that are out there now, they think they're all that in a bag of chips after 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
One thing I used to tell my SWAT guys, they would want to go to these certificate mills where our budget for training was great. We could send them to away schools a couple times a year. And I'd always make them give me a resume on the instructor. Who's teaching this course? Because chances are my guys knew more than the instructors that were teaching. And I said, you send me I'm not going to send you out there to just do it on vacation for a few days. You're going to go out there to learn something. We're going to spend money on you. We want it to be spent wisely. I have no objection to sending anybody to school, but bring something back that you can bring to the table and enhance everyone else's abilities, not just your certificate book, So give me the resume on the instructor. Well, it cut down a lot of, jackass schools, people with these 7-year wonders thinking they know that. And, they don't, But then I started hanging around with people like John. John's forgotten more about sniping than most people know. And anytime I have any type of question about ballistics or anything, if you want a dissertation, you just ask John. He'll send you something to make your eyes and ears bleed. So John is to ballistics what my laser folks are to light and optics. So
Well, thank you.
it's an honor. How long have I known you now, John? I'm over 20 years. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Because we met at Sniper Week.
yeah.
Long time ago.
I was going to say on that note, John, do you want to plug your books?
Oh, yes. So basically I've got the two books, my two latest books out of Blue 360 Media. It's Foundations of Sniper Marksmanship and Foundations of Patrol Rifle Marksmanship. And I'm happy to say that we were able to follow through on the plan to create updated editions for 2025. So those are both out now.
Very nice.
Available on the website. The Sniper one, that didn't have. Basically, I updated the Sniper survey statistics data for 2025. Thanks to Derek Bartlett at the American Sniper Association and Snipercraft. I had access to the raw data for the latest sniper survey, and I was able to do my own analysis of it because the published survey, the survey that's published by the ASA, is unavailable to the general public. It's only available to primarily police, and I suppose if you were in the military, you could buy one. But I did my own statistical analysis of the data, and the previous edition had it from like 2019 or something like that, and I was able to bring it up to date to 2025. Very happy about it. In fact, we just missed releasing the book prior to the release of the 2025 sniper survey, because that's done every two
or 3 years.
Done like every 2 year. Yeah, every 2 years out at Sniper Week.
Okay.
And so they came out pretty much the same time. The patrol rifle book, very happy about that. Basically because of developments in patrol rifling. Oh, and in the interest of full disclosure, today's guest was gracious enough to write the forward for the patrol rifle book when it first came out, and he's still in there, and can't thank him enough for that. And but on this one, there was a new development in patrol rifles. In fact, a future guest, Jeff Feltz, had developed a device for officers carrying patrol rifles, and he was gracious enough to help me with photographs and text and everything else, so that I was able to add a new appendix to the book on a description and the operation of what he calls the patrol rifle holster.
All right. Well, that just brings us to the end of our time. I want to say thanks for being on here today, and thanks for hooking us up here, John. But I like the leadership and the aspects. I mean, you bring a very unique perspective to a lot of our conversation.
Good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Really appreciated it, Bob. And hang on the line for a few seconds. We'll chat offline. Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening in and following along with the discussions. Be sure to click the follow or subscribe button on your respective listening platform. Also, check out the Quiet Professional on X and Instagram under TQP780. And most importantly, please share where you can. Everyone has a part to play in getting these education and information pieces out there, so pass it along. Thanks again.